Right, let's see what I've got for you today. Now, most trainers think that they need more followers. Yeah, naturally, they think that, more followers, I'll get more DMs, more leads. And, logic dictates that sort of approach. And that's why it's such a common belief. And it is true, but only half true. Only half true. And it's actually the second half to truth, because really all you're doing is you're papering over the cracks of a business that you're trying to scale. That's why you're in this game, isn't it? Obviously you want to go out and help people, and you want to support people towards a healthier life, but you also want to be successful at it. Because not only does that reward you for your hard work, but it also enables you to help more people. Now, like any business, it is a numbers game. Any business, from the corner shop all the way through to Amazon. I always feel like I talk about Amazon. Let's use let's use eBay. It is a numbers game. Now, the numbers we're talking about here specifically is marketing and eyeballs, and it is a numbers game, but the numbers game is something which happens at a later stage. The primary stages should always be quality. You want to stay as small as possible for as long as possible. And really what that does is that forces you to create a strong foundation. And with a strong foundation, you can go off and build anything. So let's use an example. So you have two houses. The first house has that strong foundation, and you only start, it's your first house, so you only build a small house. You don't need anything. You've got your kitchen, you've got your sitting room, you've got a dining table, and then you've got two beds upstairs. So it's only a small house. You don't need anything more than that. But let's say you want to build you want to have a family. You want to turn that house into something else, and then more and more and more and more and more. And eventually this house becomes a city on top of a hill, for example. But it's all built off of that same strong foundation. And it's only possible because you had that strong foundation in place originally. Vice versa. Now let's say you have weak foundations and you build that same small house to start off with, and you think, cool, I've got the same size house. Easy peasy. But when you do want to scale, you will not be in a position to. You'll have to go back to the foundations to start again. And until you fix those foundations, you will not be able to build a house which is any bigger than the small house you started off with. That's the reality of business, and that's the reality of where most personal trainers get stuck. That's why so many quit. One of the reasons so many personal trainers quit is that they can't get out of that small house phase, and that's because they've completely negated the quality. They've completely negated the opportunity you have early on as a coach to really focus on the fundamentals. So we'll go through some of those fundamentals now, and hopefully there's some information there which you can take home with you, and you can start building that stronger foundation for you and your business. Right, positioning. Now, I'm not going to go off and talk about, in your bio you need to say who you're for and this, that, and the other. I think there's actually a layer significantly deeper, but it's not more complex, it's just more thorough. So here's a good test. So with zero context, could you get 5 strangers to watch 3 of your videos that you've put out on socials, and could they actually describe you in one sentence? Could they actually understand who you're for based off of just those 3 videos? And it should be 3 random videos, not curated ones, not ones that you did from here, there, and everywhere, where your positioning is strong. Now, the whole test behind this is that there should be a pattern across time that really specifies who you're for. Now, what you should it has to be a golden thread throughout every bit of content that you do. And it's not enough just to be like, oh, okay, like I'm I'm the bodybuilding guy. I'm the Pilates girl. I am the mobility person. It has to be more. You have to use much sharper phrasing, much more precise words. This is what Alex Hormozy does incredibly well. He will take a sentence and he will spend hours and hours and hours bringing it down to its bare minimum number of words, where if you take out just one more word, it completely loses its structure and its meaning. And what this does is this forces simplicity in the mind of the people that you're trying to work with. And so you may have two trainers and they may do exactly the same thing, but one has specified themselves so precisely that people instantly know who they're for and that they can help them. A really good example of this is the knees over toes guy. You know, he's taken the same content that's already out there, but he does have his own philosophy, which is brilliant. But notice his branding, his position, he's positioned himself within his name, within his and that's a golden thread throughout all of his content. So he's a really good example of positioning, and positioning has to be so much more than just your bio. It has to be something that people can identify you as. The same way that you have a name, it should be that rigorous. It really should be. Every bit of content should tie back to who you're for, and it should be a very, very specific thing. Now, number 2, DMs, direct messages. Now, these are not just an opportunity for a casual conversation. You know, maybe you think that, okay, fantastic, cool, I've got a DM. I did a post and I've got someone messaging me. Fantastic. Now I get to have that person as my client. And unfortunately, you know, personal trainers have become very critical of, not critical, sorry, that's the wrong word, pessimistic because of this numbers game aspect. Now, I know this because I did a bunch of undercover research with trainers, and you can tell that they were just used to people DMing them and not showing intent. And that's such a shame, because if someone has DM'd you, they have shown intent. It's just the DM process is completely incorrect. And again, that goes back to quality. So within DMs, you want to build some initial rapport and some social proof, but not so much that you're coming across as their friend. You need to have enough direction that you're moving the conversation forward, but not so aggressively that people feel like they're on their toes. It's a balancing act. Notice all the best salesmen. You've got that cheesy car salesman. Buy, sell. And it puts people off. You know, people are very, oh God. Versus someone who's just far too relaxed and like, oh yeah, they'll make their own mind up about whether or not they want to buy. No. As with anything, the answer lies somewhere in the middle, and this is what I'm describing. So you want to have enough rapport that you feel that the person feels friendly, and that you care about them messaging you, and some degree of social proof. Obviously, you want social proof in your content, but within the DMs, it's also a great opportunity just to add a little bit of flavouring, and then direct them and then move them on. Is probably a better way of saying it. Move them on to an intro call. Now, an intro call is the universal method of acquisition, and it should be, because you know, personal training is personal, and without that capacity to speak to them, you're negating a really strong opportunity. And please do not frame it as a free consultation. Your time is paid when they're people value that. Personal trainers who do that value their time very poorly. You're not that important. I promise you, they're talking to a bunch of other personal trainers. Your opportunity is your job, I should say, is to be polite, show interest, and get them moving. Your job is not to come across like you're very important and your time is so exclusive. That's not how this works. Intro calls. Number 3. You got to learn how to talk. Now, obviously, I know how to. Of course, you know how to talk. Now, but learning to talk within a specific context, learning to talk within the ability to be able to sell to people is vital. And so this is what happens on the intro call. And learning to talk comes down to two things: the words you say and the way you say it. Now, the words comes down to, I always like to think of the great speeches and great talkers. Now, very often they will not have a script; they'll just have prompts, they'll have bullet points. And the reason why they have that is that it allows the authenticity of the moment to be present and for them to just flow, but they're flowing into a process which is predefined. And that's your job. You should have a structure. And with that structure, it gives you something to learn, to tweak, to remove parts, to add parts, to swap bits around, to shorten one bit, to lengthen another bit, to add a bit there. And that's what these great speech people do. Speech people, these great presenters do. Is that they like, so often we just see the final product of these things. We just see the person after they've done all this hard work, and we just think, oh, they're a natural. No, they're not. They've practiced, and they've practiced by having some level of structure which they can refer to improve and to rely upon, but allow that authenticity to still come through. And the second part of that is tone. So with tone, now you can go up at the end of a sentence and down at the end of a sentence. Two options. Don't go in the middle, because you'll come across as very boring. But yes, so with tone. Now, going up at the end of a sentence positions you to ask a question, like I just did then, ask a question, or positions you to ask a question. Now, notice just the mind is the person you're talking to, I'm talking to you, obviously, is wired for social cues, and the tone is the social cue there. So utilize that in your intro calls at certain points. Again, going back to the script, you should wire the tone within the points you want to make. So maybe you have maybe part 3 of your intro call framework could be asking. It could be asking the client some questions, and your tone within that is absolutely vital. Because if you get it wrong, then you position yourself as someone who's quite anxious. But if you get it right, I should say, you position yourself as someone who's taking control of the conversation. And ultimately, that's what they're there for. They are there to put their fitness in your hands. And so if you can have an intro call where they feel like you are moving them forward towards what it is that they're wanting to achieve, you've nailed it. And that comes down to words and tone. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found this useful as ever. If you did, show us some way of liking it. So maybe subscribe, whatever you fancy. But either way, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.